Hello, cats and kittens. We are live, and today is a very special day. Today, uh, on this date in 1944, Anne Frank and her family were arrested and taken to the prison camps. They were in 1944. Let me. Anne Frank and her family. Hold on. Let me do that. Okay, mute that. They were arrested and taken from the secret annex. So I think it's been 78 years. I'm not sure, but I don't know. I'm not good at the math. You do the math for me and help me out because I really don't know what the time frame is. But anyway, today I thought I'd do a little tribute to my hero Anne Frank. I'm going to read you an essay that I wrote back in 2008. It was originally just going to be a poem, but I wrote the poem first, and then I said I got to write more. I gotta tell my story better about her. And so before I start to read you the essay and tell you some more stuff, I'm going to show you some of my Anne Frank stuff that I have and some other movies that deal with the Holocaust. So first we have Anne Frank Remembered. And this is also a book by Mia Pease. This one was hard to find. I had to order this specially online. Well, the librarian at my library at the time found this for me because it was hard to get in stores, and I really wanted to see this. And this documentary is so beautiful and illuminating, as it says by the Los Angeles Times on the back. So this is it. Hey, Danny. Quick hello. Busy at work. Well, busy bee, huh? Well, it's nice to see you, bestie. So that's Anne Frank Remembered. So that one's good. Happy to have that in my collection. And then we have Anne Frank. There's more to her story than you'll ever imagine. So this goes before they go into hiding, when they're in hiding, and then in the prison camps. And Ben Kingsley plays Otto Frank in this movie, and he does a fantastic acting job in this film. I really, really enjoyed this film. I forget where I got this one from, but it's really good, and it lasts 3 hours and 9 minutes. So it's a very, very good movie. So, Anne Frank. And then we go to Millie Perkins, Joseph, I can't pronounce his last name, Shelley Winters, The Diary of Anne Frank. So this is based on the play. And this is a very, very good movie in black and white. And this came out in 1959, and this lasts 3 hours. So this is really, really good. So I really enjoyed this. And next, on our Holocaust theme, one of my all-time favorites from 1993, directed by Steven Spielberg and starring my cousin Liam Neeson, we have Schindler's List. And this movie is done in black and white with some colored little features here, like the little girl you see her red coat. So I'll show you the inside of this, if I can get this thing out. If it decides to come out, I'm stuck. Hold on, guys. Hey, Dave. So that's what it looks like inside. And there's his typewriter that Ben Kingsley's in this film, and he types out all the list. And there's all the discs, special features, and DVD and Blu-ray and all that kind of stuff. So that's that. Now, if I can get this back in here. Okay, we got that. Next, we have 3 discs. This is a 7-hour and 29-minute mini series called Holocaust from 1979, I believe, 1978. This was a mini series that was on TV back in the 70s. So we got Meryl Streep and James Woods. And it's a story of a fictional Jewish family in Germany and about going to the prison camps and stuff like that. This is really, really good. Little sad, but good. And then next, this is what that Anne Frank, the 3-hour movie was based on. Hey, Trekker. Melissa Mueller, Anne Frank, the biography. I haven't read this yet, but I'm looking forward to it. So this is what that other movie was based on. So we got that. And next we have Life magazine, Anne Frank, Her Life and Legacy. And that's what the door to the secret annex looks like here. And then we have this one here too, as well. Another magazine, Anne Frank, 75 years later, her untold story. And here's some pictures of Anne. Hey, Darren. So now I'm going to read you my essay from 2007, which I wrote. Okay, first I got to tell you a little story. So first of all, when I first was about when I was writing this, back in early 2007, my library, the head librarian at the time, her name's Katha Yoon. She put together a writing group. So I joined it, and we were all in the writers group together. And so I decided, well, she's Althea Charles was our kind of writing teacher, and because I just read the book The Freedom Writers and saw the movie, and it's based on a true story. So that's what inspired this writing group. So we had the writers group, and so one day she said, write about something that really inspires you. So we all had to write something. So this is my what inspires me most. So this is Anne Frank picture. My friend retyped it out for me. So this is called What Anne Frank Means to Me by James Latteroute. This is dedicated to my closest friends at the time, Claudette, Megan, Kathleen, and Cynthia, Anne Frank. So for the longest time, I have wanted to write about my hero, Anne Frank, and now I am going to do so. It was in late June of 1996 that I got this very big interest in Anne Frank. I had heard of the movie The Diary of Anne Frank years ago and had rented it the year before and loved it. So on one hot June summer day, I went to the library and asked my friend Nora LaRue, who was still the head librarian at the time, if they had her diary, and she said that they did. So I borrowed it and took it home and proceeded to read, not knowing how attached to her I would become and all this 13-year-old had to suffer through. When I had finished reading her diary, I burst into tears and felt a strong connection to her. She became my hero instantly, and I felt, wow, I hope I can write something amazing about my life someday. Lo and behold, that became a reality. I dug deep into my memories to write about my early childhood, which wasn't an easy task to undertake, picking out the most special moments that meant a lot to me. Somehow I pulled it off and got 6 amazing pages out of it. Anne Frank wrote in her diary for 2 whole years, which is more than I have ever written in a whole month. After reading her diary, I found a common interest in the Holocaust and World War II. I wanted to know about the era that Anne grew up in so I could better understand all she and the Jewish people had to suffer through. I studied books on World War II and other books on the Holocaust. After I read these books, I had a much better understanding of what the war was doing to her and the Jewish people. I then found some other books on Anne Frank, such as A Tribute to Anne Frank, and the second was Anne Frank Beyond the Diary. I also read Anne Frank Remembered by Mia Pease. They were very informative indeed. Then in one of those books, I saw that there was a book called Tales from the Secret Annex, and I went to a used bookstore and searched high and low for that book. Suddenly, while rummaging through a pile of books, I found it and snatched it up pretty quick. It was a book that Anne had written while in hiding, and it had some short stories in it. My favorite one was called The Fairy. There are several beautiful quotes in her diary, but these are my favorite 3. We'll start with number 3, working towards my favorite quote. Number 3, if God lets me live, I shall attain more than Mommy has ever done. I shall not remain insignificant. I shall work in the world and for mankind. And I know, and now I know, that first and foremost, I shall require courage and cheerfulness. 2. I kept my ideals because, in spite of everything, I still believe that people are really good at heart. Number 1, I don't want to live in vain like most people. I want to be useful or bring enjoyment to all people, even those I've never met. I want to go on living even after my death. Those were deep words from such a young girl as she was. Her soul was as deep as mine seems to be, and I feel when I'm writing that Anne Frank's soul is flowing through my veins, helping me find the writer hidden deep inside. Around Christmas of 1996, over the holidays, my dad took me shopping because I knew there was a second version of the diary that I was excited to read. Anne Frank, The Diary of a Young Girl, Definitive Edition. I found it at Chapters, and my dad bought it for me. It had a lot more information in it than the original I had, and I felt more and more close to Anne the second time around. There is a third version of the diary called the Critical Edition, but I can't seem to find it anywhere. Some people told me it might be out of print, so I'll keep searching for it, even if I have to do an interloan from another library. From what I've heard, it's the most informative version of the diary ever written. Anne turned 13 on June 12, 1942, and her parents gave her a diary for her birthday. She even had a make-believe friend that she always addressed as Dear Kitty. One night while in hiding, Anne had a dream that her best friend was in a concentration camp. When I read that part, it seemed pretty scary, and I'm sure that it freaked Anne out a lot. At that time, Anne never knew that later in 1944 it would be her fate. Most people write from their head, but Anne wrote from her heart and soul. I see two things in her we have in common. One, she loved movies and movie stars in the royal family. Two, she wanted so much to be a famous writer when she grew up. At one point, while in hiding, Anne decided she was going to rewrite her entire diary because after looking it over when she was 13, she felt she wanted it to be published at some point, but felt it was too childish, so she began to rewrite it. If Anne had lived to become the famous writer she so wanted to be, I, for one, would have enjoyed reading all of her novels. I love Anne Frank to the very depth of my soul, and sometimes I wish I could travel back in time to meet my hero and tell her she means so much to me. But alas, time travel does not exist. I can always talk to her in my dreams. I know that Anne loves me very much too because she lives within me and she helps me find the words I want to put down on paper. If we had both grown up in the same era, I'm sure that Anne and I would have been sweethearts, and I would have tried my very best to save her and her family from the Nazis for sure. I know one thing for sure, and that is she is my girlfriend in heaven, still looking young and beautiful as she did in life. I hope that one day I will find a wonderful girl as brilliant and radiant as Anne was. As my friend once told me, James, you will meet a girl who looks just like Anne Frank. That would be so nice if I did, but I know I have a lot of wonderful friends at church and the library, so for now, having no sweetheart is okay with me. Imagine being cooped up in a very confined place for 2 whole years. It would surely drive you to the brink of madness. You're completely trapped like a bird in a cage, and always having to be on your guard because you never know what was lurking in the shadows outside and downstairs in the office. Just like Anne, I'm sure we've all felt trapped at some point in our lives. I know that I have on several occasions. Otto Frank really only got to know his daughter more deeply through her diary, and I admire Mia Gies for her courage and strength. She was someone that Anne admired a lot. Her sister Margot was the quiet one, but was very close to her sister, whom she loved very much. Edith Frank was Anne's mother, and she really wanted her daughter to love her, but Anne felt that her mom couldn't give her all that she needed, like her father, whom she affectionately called Pim, could. She was very close to her father, and she told him, I love you the most, Pim. I'm sure that later on in the concentration camp, she finally realized that she did truly love her mother after all. Anne writes in her diary that when she was at school, she was known as a chatterbox. So her teacher called her Miss Quack Quack and told her that she was talking and told her that for talking so much in class, she would have to write for her punishment a composition entitled Quack Quack Quack, says Mrs. Natterbeak. Her friend Suzanne, who wrote really good poetry, offered to help Anne with the poem, and it was a huge success. It was about a mother duck and a father swan that had three baby ducklings. The baby ducklings were bitten to death by the father because they quacked too much. The whole class, including the teacher, loved it. I thought that was very cute when I read that part. Anne Frank lived in a time when the world was at war. Her father, Otto, knew the score. They went into hiding for 2 whole years. In Anne's diary, she wrote down all her fears. Dear Kitty, she would write on the page. She wrote all this at 13 years of age. On August 4th, 1944, the Gestapo broke down the secret annex door. They took all their belongings and to even the score. They dropped Anne's diary and papers all over the floor. They were put on a train and sent to the camps, where most people suffered from hunger and stomach cramps. Anne died in Bergen-Belsen in 1945, but her spirit, I know, is very much alive. I know for a fact we will never part, because Anne Frank will always live in my heart. In late 1997, I had a dream that I was in a concentration camp and all the people were waving their arms about and saying, help us, help us. And I was just sitting there watching and not knowing what to do. Everything was black and white. And then all of a sudden, Anne Frank came floating towards me in brilliant color. And when she got close to me, she kissed me softly on the lips and said to me, I love you. And then she floated away smiling at me the whole time. And then I woke up. My friend Claudette helped me understand what the dream meant. And she said to me, Anne is your angel, and she is watching over you. I thought it was the most beautiful thing I had ever heard in my life. One day I hope to visit the secret annex and really experience Anne like never before. This is my tribute to Anne Frank and the memory of the 6 million Jews who lost their lives in the Holocaust. So that's my thing, my essay that I wrote. And in 2007, I went to see a play, The Diary of Anne Frank, at the Segal Theatre in downtown Montreal. And hold on, I need a sip of my drink because I'm thirsty. And I brought a copy of my essay with me because I wanted to present it to the director of the play. So this lady that was there, I gave it to her, and while I was in watching the play, she read it. And when I came out, she came over to me and she said, "There's the man who's in love with Anne Frank." And she said, "I read your essay; it's beautiful." She said, "I'm going to pass it on to the director; she'll love it." So the director's name is Marcia Cash, and a few months later, in November 2007, I got an email from her. So this is what it says. Hello, James. Thank you very much for your essay entitled What Anne Frank Means to Me. Clearly, you have been inspired by her as a person and as a writer. It is so important to read on so many levels. And when someone is touched by a story, particularly a real one, it can open up the world. I can see that's what happened to you. And I'm sure that's what Anne meant when she said, I want to go on living even after my death. I know you will continue to develop your writing, and I hope that your discovery and learning surrounding World War II and the Holocaust will lead you to understand that we're still fighting the battles of hate and racism today, and that you can take an active part in stopping it. There is a wonderful book by Desmond Tutu called No Future Without Forgiveness, which talks about the plight of South Africa and coming out of apartheid, should you be interested in going in that direction. I hope you enjoyed the production at the Segal Theatre and that you were moved by it. Good luck with all your endeavors, James, and keep writing. I particularly like your poem, by the way. All the best. Marcia Cash, director, The Diary of Anne Frank, Seagull Theatre, Montreal. So I was very excited to get that from the director. And so that's my little tribute to Anne Frank and all the 6 million Jewish people that perished in the Holocaust. And may there never be another Holocaust ever again. So, Anne Frank, I just want to say a few words to your spirit. I know you're in heaven, you're in a better place, and God bless you. And God bless everyone here. Thank you. And as I say in my channel, Beatles forever. See you later. Bye.